Kim Jong-un. President Trump arriving in Hanoi, Vietnam just a few hours ago. And earlier, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's armored train pulling into a railway station on the China-Vietnam border. The two leaders expected to meet tomorrow. This is Outnumbered, and I'm Melissa Francis. Here today is Harris Faulkner, host of Kennedy on the Fox Business Network Kennedy, Democratic strategist and Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall, and joining us on the couch, the host of The Next Revolution, the former chief of strategy for British Prime Minister David Cameron, Steve Hilton is with us.
I know, I'm ready.
It's so great. It's been a while, but we saw each other Sunday night. That was such fun.
That was a lot of fun. So
Are you on a show?
Yeah.
I just want to make that clear.
Steve,
so you don't want to tell people you took the train from D.C. together last night?
Oh, yeah, that's going to
So you're going to bring a revolution?
Scandalous.
Exactly.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's get started. All right, President Trump's motorcade heading to a hotel in Hanoi for the night after landing on Air Force One. Kim Jong-un also arriving in Hanoi after he was driven 2 hours to the Vietnamese capital from the Chinese border. John Roberts is in Hanoi with more now. John.
It was a couple of hour trip for Kim Jong-un, Melissa, after taking a 3.5-day train ride through the Chinese countryside from Pyongyang. Would have been about a 4-hour plane ride, but he decided he wanted to see what was going on in China, so he took the train, and the president, an almost 24-hour flight to get here to Hanoi. But everybody in place now. The president down for the night at his hotel after that motorcade ride in from the airport. The streets were lined with people. The president tweeting his appreciation, saying, quote, "Just arrived in Vietnam. Thank you to all the people for the great reception in Hanoi. Tremendous crowds and so much love." The president billing this as another step along a long path toward fundamental change in North Korea, saying that there are likely more meetings between him and Kim Jong-un down the road, as did last June in Singapore. President Trump will again try to sell Kim on the idea that he can reap the benefits of economic development in North Korea if he gives up his nuclear program. Michael Anton is a former spokesman for the National Security Council at the White House. Listen here.
Regime survival is the fundamental priority of the North Koreans and of Kim Jong-un. So this question of dangling carrots about economic development in front of them, it really boils down to whether Kim has had a change of heart, whether he thinks that economic development, money, capitalism, prosperity is a better guarantor of regime survival than a nuclear program.
President Trump says he is in no rush to try to press Kim into beginning the process to dismantle his nuclear program, but the president's getting a lot of pressure coming from Democrats to push him into some sort of tangible progress toward denuclearization. North Korea experts believe that success has already been pre-cooked into this summit, that the leaders would not agree to have met unless they could declare some sort of success at the end of it, and there are fears that success will fall short of real progress on denuclearization. And we are also told that there's concern inside the White House, the State Department, the Pentagon, Treasury Department, even Energy, that in the talks leading up to this week's summit, the president's point person on North Korea was willing to offer too much to get North Korea to move forward. One of the biggest concerns by critics is that denuclearization has now become a negotiating point and not the non-negotiable promise that Kim made at the first summit back in Singapore last June. The overarching fear is that North Korea is being given too many promises in exchange for doing nothing. There is a danger that if the president does not move Kim Jong-un off of his current position, which is having done nothing to actually dismantle his nuclear program, that the United States could get stuck again in that cycle of North Korea making promises and then doing nothing. President Trump has vowed that he is going to break that cycle, but there are also real concerns here that North Korea is not negotiating an agreement to denuclearize. It is simply trying to negotiate an agreement to extend its livelihood. Melissa?
John, I was shocked yesterday when you said that you were at the same hotel with Kim Jong-un. Now I understand that there was an abrupt movement of the press from the hotel. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'm still staying at the same hotel. I've still got my room, but we had a massive White House file center at the Malia Hotel, which is where Kim Jong-un is staying. We have these file centers that are set up at every city where the president travels, and we were told at the very last minute, just before Kim arrived at the hotel, that we had to pack up, basically a moment's notice, and leave. We are now at the International Media Center, which the Vietnamese have put together. It's actually it's quite a great center to work out of, but it's the very first Tom. I've covered the White House off and on for about 10 years under Clinton and Bush and now President Trump. And I've never seen an occasion where a foreign leader has said that they want the press, the White House press, out of the hotel that they are staying in. When we were at the G20 in Buenos Aires, for example, French President Macron was in our hotel and there was no problem. But Kim Jong-un did not like the idea that the White House press corps was at the same hotel as he was. He didn't want us all hanging around. So he talked to somebody who pulled the trigger on us moving. So here we are at the International Media Center, and thanks to the folks who set this up, because it's actually quite a good facility.
The behind-the-scenes details are always the most fascinating. John Roberts, thank you so much. We'll come back to you as news warrants.
Thanks, Melissa.
Turning to politics now, it appears feelings are still a little bit raw between the staffers of Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. Former staffers for Clinton's failed 2016 presidential candidate unloading on Sanders in a new article just days after Sanders announced another White House run. Anonymous Clinton campaign members telling Politico that despite Senator Sanders' claims to care about global warming, he insisted on flying in chartered jets to campaign events. One staffer saying, quote, "In the final months of the 2016 campaign, Sanders repeatedly requested and received the use of a carbon-spewing private jet for himself and his traveling staff when he served as a surrogate campaigner for Hillary Clinton." Former 2016 Sanders campaign spokesman Michael Briggs responding, saying of Hillary Clinton, quote, "You can see why she's one of the most disliked politicians in America. She's not nice. Her people are not nice. The thanks that we get is this kind of petty, stupid sniping. A couple of years after the fact, it doesn't make me feel good to feel this way, but there's some of the biggest expletives in American politics." Whoa, Steve Hilton, you are chuckling. I will go right to you.
Well, you just want more and more of this, right? I mean, it's such fun to see them all squabbling. There's so many sort of ridiculous elements to this. First of all, on the climate change point and the carbon spewing private jet. Right. I mean, I seem to remember Hillary Clinton taking her fair share of carbon spewing private jets, not just in the campaign, but for most of her
I'm
time.
not sure she was a socialist, though.
No, but the thing is that Bernie, to be fair to Bernie, he wasn't actually going on about climate. That wasn't his message. He had an economic message.
That is
it was Hillary Clinton.
Very good point.
She was the one that was going on about climate change. And look, who cares? In the end, it's so hilarious to see the bitterness of that fight still being there and being played out. I think the one thing I'd say is that Bernie Sanders, I can see why the bitterness is still there for him, because he was not only, in his view, forced out of that race because the system was rigged against him. It seems it's happening to him again because his whole agenda, all of his ideas, co-opted by pretty much the rest of the field. And so once again, he's not going to get the chance to implement his socialist revolution.
You know what's fascinating about what you just said? So when I was watching that town hall last night, I thought the very thing that you expressed. And that is that not only co-opted, but just taken.
Yeah.
And almost a question was hanging above my head. Did Bernie miss his moment? And we've heard the president say as much. But in that moment, in those moments last night, I was thinking that. It's like, that's what, you're right, he wasn't talking about energy. But now he is, because that's part of this Green New Deal.
The other thing that's a really important, interesting development is that when he was running, particularly at the beginning of his campaign, 2015, there's a highly revealing interview with Vox that I always come back to when we talk about immigration, because the language that he used, Bernie Sanders used about immigration, was almost identical to Donald Trump's in terms of the impact of uncontrolled immigration and open borders on wages
Barack
and the American
Obama used
worker.
it as well.
And then during the course of the campaign, it became clear to him, you just can't get away with it.
I think the feeling...
In the modern Democratic Party, you've got to be for open borders, same as you've got to have religion on climate change.
I think the feeling is still very much there with people who share the president's populist view on certain economic issues, and that tends to be the more progressive. But Hillary Clinton, if you remember, she painted herself as a progressive, certainly toward the end of the nomination process for the Democrats, because Bernie had painted her so far left. And she was really trying to pitch herself as someone who had been a progressive since the 60s. Her campaign spent over $15 million on private jets, which is fine. I mean, in presidential politics, that's what you have to do to win. And she needed Bernie to win. She needed those supporters to close the chasm in the Democratic Party. And I don't understand where her team is coming from, other than the fact that she wants to get in the race. And if he's in, and obviously the president is in, and Joe Biden's thinking thinking about getting in.
Right.
And all these other people, Hillary wants in, she's got the worst FOMO ever, but the way she's going about it, and I'm glad his campaign spokespeople have hit back to say that these people are unlikable, they are a bunch of shrews, and they worked for the least likable politician in American history.
She's got a second book coming, Leslie. It's
By the way,
what's
very-
happening. What's happening?
A lot of her people.
Can the Democrat on the couch weigh
Yeah,
in?
but just very quick, one important
Apparently
fact.
no.
A lot of those people, the nasty people, they're now working for Kamala Harris. That's the shift that's happening.
Wait a minute. Just like you've had people say, oh, David Cameron's people are nasty or whatever. And you're like, no, I know
Not
these
me.
people. Yeah, no, not you. Look, I don't think she's nasty. I don't think the people that work for her are nasty. What I do think is nasty as a Democrat is, are we going to learn from what happened in 2016? She's not running. Bernie is. It's a different field. To your point, yes, he pioneered $15 minimum wage. He pioneered Medicare for all. Every Democrat has taken it. It is now not just a Democratic talking point, part of the Democratic platform. And that's why, in a sense, he needs to play nice. And to the economic point, this is a man who talks about the economy, who talks about economic inequality, and has 3 homes and is very wealthy, and that bothers some Democrats. And with a bigger field, that's going to come up to bite him.
They're all hypocrites.
So Steve Hilton made a tremendous point there in case we missed it. He's saying that this is not Hillary Clinton's people striking out at Bernie Sanders. This is Kamala Harris's people who now work for Hillary Clinton that are driving this, and they're hurting Bernie Sanders. And the point of this article was that he's a hypocrite. And as much as he sits there and he talks about the environment or he talks about whatever, that he is out there and he's flying in the private jet and he's also the mean guy on his front lawn yelling. Am I right?
I'm going to go with what
this is Kamala
Kennedy
Harris.
said. They're all hypocrites.
Absolutely.
The establishment Clinton people, no, not all of them, but that's, you know, when you talk to people inside
Kamala
it,
Harris, hypocrite. Hillary Clinton,
they're going to
hypocrite.
her.
Liz Warren, hypocrite. Bernie Sanders, hypocrite. Cory Booker, hypocrite. They're all hypocrites. And those are just the Democrats. They're a bunch of Republican hypocrites,
thank you for
too. Don't
saying
get
that.
me
That was my
wall
next
That's what I thought you meant, everybody.
Thank you. I thought you meant
I think all
everybody.
politicians.
No, but they all are. But here's the thing that, and I don't appreciate this from Hillary Clinton's team. Why wouldn't Bernie Sanders fight to win? Why wouldn't he go out there and go after her credibility and her character and her choices and her voting record and everything else? And she sits there so queenly like, we can't believe that Bernard attacked us, because she uses the royal we.
But you have to
during the
remember.
campaign. Do you remember that Donald Trump had 16 people attacking him repeatedly on the same stage, and did he sit there and cry and say, it is so hard?
He was making up nicknames.
Making fun of my hands.
The difference is when Hillary Clinton had to pass the reign for the Democratic nomination to Barack Obama.
Look, listen to that.
The reign, R-E-I-G-N, not reign. When she lost the nomination to Barack Obama, one thing I have to say for her is she brought us together and said, look, peeps that were behind me, as I was one of them.
She didn't say peeps. She wished she did.
Okay, I'm saying peeps. She said, I support Barack Obama. You need to support Barack Obama. They supported Barack Obama. They voted for Barack Obama, and he won.
That was about the foundation.
I was
that
in
was
the
about
room.
enriching the foundation. That's all that was.
I was
the concentration of money and power so she could become president. That's it.
In 2016, I was in the room when Bernie Sanders sat there pouting like a child, and a lot of the Bernie or bust people stayed home and then were outraged after Trump won, and that contributed to it.
He got robbed. I mean, he should have won that nomination.
I don't care if you get robbed. The Republicans, one thing the Republicans do that Democrats need to learn from is they unite.
And we know that. We know
they don't
that
look very united right now.
Yeah,
I think that
more
was
people
the point of
hate
segment.
voting
They
in
aren't
2016.
united right now.
Right, exactly.
We are following President Trump. We are following President Trump as he's touching down in Vietnam for his second high-stakes summit with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, and an eye-opening new poll on how Americans believe that the U.S. is viewed on the world stage details and what it means as the president hopes to score a new win abroad. Plus, President Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen, kicking off the first of 3 rounds of testimony on Capitol Hill. Amid reports, he'll accuse the president of breaking the law while in office as Republicans step up questions over Cohen's credibility. We will debate the impact of all of this.
I can tell you there's a number of questions that still remain in terms of potential criminal offenses that Michael Cohen may have committed that I believe will come out tomorrow.
time.
Honestly, I just get so frustrated. Look at these idiots in Congress wasting their time and our brain space with this kind of gossip, this nonsense. It doesn't affect anyone's life. It doesn't affect anything that matters to the American people. Because this is what they love. They love this kind of the game, the game of politics, rather than actually tackling real issues like, for example, fixing the broken immigration system, doing something that actually helps people. And there's another aspect to this that I think is really important for everyone to remember this moment, which is that, remember what the Democrats said? Give us back the House. We're going to have a positive agenda. We're going to be focusing on health care and people's jobs and their incomes and living. All out the window. What have we heard from the Democrats that's positive since they got here? All that they've done since taking back control is this kind of nonsense.
You know, Leslie, Steve has an interesting point. We're rounding out the second month of the year, and we're still talking about investigations that could be coming up after Robert Mueller turns over his report to the new AG. And we're still on the same topic. Are you convinced that your party can, as you like to say, walk and chew gum at the same time?
Absolutely. We can.
How do we know? What's the proof?
And Steve, but her emails, waste of taxpayer time, money, and investigations there. Look, they're going to do this. They're going to play it out. And in a sense, they have to. You can have investigations and put forth legislation. Republicans have done it.
Well, then where's the immigration reform?
Democrats can do it. I believe Democrats will put that.
Where is it? They could be doing it right now.
Right now, they're bogged down with a president who wants to have a national emergency declaration, and they even have Republicans on board with that.
Who's setting the docket in the House? Republicans?
Right now, Democrats are going to, with Republicans, pass, and we'll see what happens, because I think it'll pass both in the House and the Senate.
One vote today. How about health care?
Universal background checks. That's one step toward what they promised their constituents.
That's one vote today. How about health care? How about some of those other things that they said?
How many months into this are we?
Well, it's 2.
Right. You want health care, universal background
we want
checks.
Anything.
How about
comprehensive immigration reform plan, all to be put forth, voted on in 60 days. How about
expediting an agenda instead of expediting investigations? If the president has done something wrong, yes, it is Congress's necessity to make sure that he is properly investigated. But to Steve's point, a lot of this stuff is retread gossip, and it's not going to affect the way his supporters feel or his detractors. And I understand they're trying,
it's the court of public
by 1,000 cuts, but at some point it becomes static to voters, and what they really want is to build on economic momentum, and Democrats have the ability to offer an agenda that does that. They're not doing that right now.
Let me jump in.
And go ahead.
Yeah, let me jump in for a second, because there's a great article in Axios today that I brought in case anyone wants it. One place where Mueller and Russia never comes up, Iowa. That is, the candidates went out there and they walked around, that the voters in that area, the only question they asked about Trump is, what are your ideas to beat him? Other than that, and just to Steve's point, other than that, they asked about health care. They asked about policy. They asked about wages. I mean, they asked about stuff that they care about that's going to affect them. Nobody wanted to hear anything about Russia or Mueller. So as Democrats go down this path and commit to this agenda, there's already, evidence that that's a loser, right, on the campaign trail.
So, Steve, you've got the Green New Deal, and we're going to talk about that more coming up, but you've got Democrats, some of them focused on whether or not they're for it or against it. That's going on. I'm just looking for that proof that they are going to do what they said they do, legislate and investigate. That's what they said.
That's exactly what they said, but it just feels like they're addicted. It's great to the tawdry gossip, to the kind of the retread of this Russia story. They cannot let it go. They're addicted to it. So maybe their better instincts say, yeah, we should be focusing on the things that actually got us elected. But they can't seem to do it. This is what they really love doing. Plus, it is, in the end, going to capture the attention of their media backers, because they all are obsessed with Russia too. So this is what you can always get an interview going on about Adam Schiff, going on about Russia.
What are independents thinking right now? Well, that's what I want to know, because there are so many more of them now in the country than ever
Republicans
before.
did the same thing when the shoe was on the other foot.
Thank you, Melissa. As I promised.
I know. Just throwing it out there. Go ahead.
That Green New Deal that I just mentioned could cost a lot of green. Forgive the pun. A new estimate of a staggering price tag, and why this could paint Democrats into a green corner. Can I use it again?
Oh, no, please don't.
Plus, the promise of guaranteed income that was first floated as part of the Green New Deal. Senior advisor to the president, Ivanka Trump, reacts to that during a one-on-one with our man on the center seat here, Steve Hilton.
I don't think most Americans in their heart want to be given something.
And I think we can have a very good summit. I think we'll have a very tremendous summit. We want denuclearization. We're going to have a signing summit, which is even better. So hopefully we can get that completed, but we're getting very, very close.
Right to a Fox News alert, President Trump is set to land in Hanoi within an hour.
All right, the president is gearing up for that high-stakes goal of denuclearization with Kim Jong-un, and it's taking place in Vietnam. It'll officially start tomorrow.
The North Korean leader receiving a red carpet welcome upon arriving for Summit 2.0 is what we're calling it. The talks are expected to begin over a private dinner. Let's bring in Bill Hemmer, America's Newsroom co-host, live in Hanoi, Vietnam. Bill, you're all over all sides of this. What are you expecting as this summit unfolds?
Good morning to all of you. It is nighttime here, about 8:34 in the evening, guys, and good evening from Hanoi. I tell you, it is a fascinating thing to think that we are here in Vietnam. And Pete, you can go up and down every street just about here in central Hanoi, and you see three flags aligned with each other. It's the North Korean flag, the Vietnamese flag, and the United States of America flag. Now, Pete, I don't know, Brian Ainsley, when the last time you thought about that concept in the same frame, but this is where we are under a Trump presidency. And I was talking with Lindsey Graham last week before I left out of New York, and I said, what's your expectation? What should we be geared up for this week? He said, Bill, it's like a 12-step program. And you're probably on step 2 right now. And I think, guys, that's probably the easiest way to understand this. As Singapore was step 1, in all likelihood, Hanoi is step 2, then there'll likely be a summit after that. Mike Pompeo referred to it many times on Sunday in his interview with Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday, that there will likely be another summit. My question to Secretary Pompeo last week was, what if you don't get what you're looking for? And I think the fallback answer on all of that is the sanctions have worked. They can crank them up even more. And if they're unable to move the ball forward here in Hanoi, I would think that would be the likely route the U.S. government takes. Now, what do we get tomorrow? What do we get Thursday? I think you get another step in this process, but my feeling right now is that you will not get a giant leap forward in this nuclear, non-nuclear struggle, guys.
Like you said, it's on step 2. What about security? I know that we saw Kim Jong-un when he arrived on the train, he got into the limo and he had security guards that were running along the side of the limo. I understand they're not even announcing which hotel he's staying in for security purposes. Can you talk about that a little?
It's a great point. Yeah, great point, Ainsley. We've been trying to get an official word as to where the meetings will even happen. And just about a half an hour ago, we got a little bit of information as to where the Vietnamese president and President Trump will meet tomorrow, but nothing with regard to Thursday. And I think, Ainsley, the reason for that is they are super concerned here by the Vietnamese government about security. They want to make sure things stay safe. We have no reason to think they will not go that way, but they're being extra precautious. As for the train ride, what a thing it is. Right here in 2019, that you have the leader of tens of millions of people who feels compelled to take a train ride through China, change trains at the border and get in a car and finish the route another 110 miles south of Hanoi. I mean, remarkable stuff. Now, his grandfather did a similar tour in 1958 and 1964. There's precedent for that. But I want you guys to understand, I want the audience to understand this. Part of the main reason why President Trump wants to have this summit in Hanoi is that he wants to show President Kim what this country has done. You think after the wars between the Chinese and the Japanese and the French and the Americans here in Vietnam, that this country, under a communist-ruled system for the past 40-plus years, they've done enough reforms, Ainsley, to keep their economy cooking along. And, man, they've been moving, too, for the past 15 years, one could argue. And it's worked. And they want to impress that upon Chairman Kim, that he can do the same thing in his country if he makes the choice to go denuclearization.
And by the way, Vietnam's still communist, but they put market principles in there and they trade and they look at China more of an adversary than an ally, and they used to be tight with them. And North Korea and Vietnam used to be tight, and they've had a rift. Maybe this will start healing that. Bill, I look forward to your show in 22 minutes. You prepared to work with Sandra Smith again?
Yeah, indeed we shall. I called it a saggy form of communism, Brian. They've allowed it to grow and expand and take their economy with it while keeping people happy and keeping the party happy, too. Got a great 3 hours coming up with you. We'll see President Trump land here in about 40 minutes. You'll see that live. Michael Anton, Daniel Hoffman, a cast of thousands coming to you live from Hanoi, guys, coming up at the top of the hour, 9 o'clock Eastern.
Right. We'll be watching.
You need a big set for a cast of thousands.
I know, but you know, Hemmer's got the resources.
He
They got a huge budget. They have a huge budget. Jillian Milley, talk about a big budget.
Oh, yeah, it's massive.
Huge budget.
Yes,
Whatever it takes.
Good morning. So let's start with this story. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar deletes controversial tweets that triggered major backlash. One of them accused a lobbying group of paying members of Congress to support Israel. But now an organization linked to the terror group Hamas is defending the Minnesota Democrats' comments, saying, quote, CAIR does not feel there was any anti-Semitic meaning in her tweets, but due to the brevity, some took it as such. Omar will be a keynote speaker at a CAIR event next month. Remember when Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein said this to a group of protesting kids?
You come in here and you say it has to be my way or the highway. I don't respond to that.
39 members of the activist group behind that incident are now under arrest. Officials say they bombarded Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's office on Capitol Hill. The Sunrise Movement is a group that supports the Green New Deal. How about this? A Texas man plans to spend his golden years at the Holiday Inn. After a thorough cost comparison, Terry Robinson writes on Facebook in part, quote, no nursing home for us. We'll be checking into a Holiday Inn. You see, he did some research and says a nursing home would cost about $188 a day, while a long-term hotel stay costs about $55 a night and comes with free breakfast, free shuttles, a pool, and other amenities.
Turn down your bed.
So it sounds like you've got to figure it out.
Sheets every day.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Holiday Inn.
Right.
Well,
That's how you want to spend that to go
a nurse?
Yeah, I stay there all the time.
What if you need a nurse?
You don't live on what ifs, Ainsley. You just, got to go to
A
the facts that you have in
nursing home
hand.
provides nurses, and that's what you're really paying for.
And I know you plan on retiring in the Four Seasons. Is that
no,
correct? No?
No, Holiday Inn. I'm with this guy next door. Adjoining doors, actually.
That's a little scary.
All right, moving on. An ice tsunami spurs evacuations around Lake Erie.
Incredible video of 30-foot-high chunks of ice pushing up against a road.
Janice Dean is not seeing this video for the first time, but she's here to respond.
That's pretty crazy, right? It's not really a tsunami, by the way. It's like an iceberg. It's like an ice dam that moves in. Right? Oh, my goodness. Hi, what's your name?
Carol Alquist from Grantsburg, Wisconsin, Burnett Medical Center. Hi to all the residents. Good to see you. We love Fox News and pray for you daily.
Fantastic. What about you, my friend?
I'm Jeremy Andrews from Jacksonville, Florida. Hi, Dad.
How do you like the weather?
Oh, it's great.
Good. I'm glad you're dressed appropriately. Let's take a look at the maps real quick. No ice jams right now here in New York City. 26 here in New York, and with the wind chill, it feels even colder than that. It's 0, my friends, in Minneapolis, so winter is still hanging on across the northern plains. Just want to make mention we have showers and thunderstorms in the forecast along the Gulf Coast. It is still cold across the Northeast and the Great Lakes, and then we have this storm system that's going to move into the West Coast, bringing heavy rain for the Bay Area and the potential for feet of snow in the mountains across California and the Northwest. So there's your forecast today. Wave to Pete, Ainsley, and Brian.
Hello, Pete, Ainsley, and Brian. Hello, Fox and friends.
All right.
We love you.
Okay.
Fantastic. I see no ice.
Give him a hug,
I
Janice.
love them too.
Give him a hug.
Tell her
Love
thank
you
you
too.
for the prayers.
Love it.
Wherever they are.
She said that. She prays for us every day.
All right.
That's super nice.
It's great. 18 minutes before the top of the hour, disgraced former Congressman Anthony Weiner just got out of prison, but he may have found his next career already.
Scared to ask what that might be. Plus,
Hosting for Steve tomorrow.
high taxes and liberal policies are driving people out of blue states like New York. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says New Yorkers are welcome in the Lone Star State, and he joins us live next.
Good morning. Welcome back. Some quick headlines now. Over 9,000 pot-related convictions go up in smoke. Prosecutors in San Francisco erasing or reducing the crimes going back to 1975. The nonprofit Code for America helps identify eligible convictions after California legalized marijuana. And convicted sex offender Anthony Weiner is reportedly ditching politics for pot. According to the Daily Mail, the former Democratic congressman met with a potential business partner for a marijuana project. Weiner was released from jail this month for sending inappropriate text messages to a minor. Brian.
All right, thanks, Jillian. The House set to vote today to block President Trump's national emergency declaration. But is this vote even about the border crisis to Democrats?
This isn't about the border. This is about the Constitution of the United States. This is not about politics. It's not about partisanship. It's about patriotism.